Welcome to another episode of Tonight with Zororo, featuring your host, Zororo Makamba, and your DJ, SK. Tonight, Zororo has a one-on-one interview with social media personality Sir Nige. Sir Nige is a Zimbabwean blogger, social entrepreneur, founder and CEO of 263 Chat, a social media platform which dominates Zimbabwe's Facebook and Twitter platforms. You can join us in conversation on Twitter and follow us on @TWZShow. And don't forget to include the hashtag TWZ. And now, give it up for your host, Zororo Makamba.
Thank you everyone, good evening and welcome to another episode of Tonight with Zororo. My name is Zororo Makamba and in this episode we're going to focus on technology. Now in Zimbabwe, most entities don't realize the importance of having a digital footprint. Some of the benefits include convenience, transparency and decentralization of government. We've put together a short video that shows the various adoptions of technology in Zimbabwe and in the African continent. Have a look.
According to the World Bank projections for global growth, out of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world right now, 11 are in Africa. Africa in general has seen the ICT sector growing in recent years at an unparalleled pace. In some countries, various studies note the information economy is becoming one of the main drivers for economic growth. According to a 2013 report from McKinsey & Company, in 2013, 67 million people in Africa used smartphones and 16% of the population was online. By 2025, the report projected that internet penetration will reach 50%. That's 600 million internet users using 360 million smartphones. Today, Africa has the youngest population in the world, a trend that's expected to become even more pronounced over the coming decades. By 2040, half of the world's young people will live in Africa. Simply put, anyone looking to find the next generation of the digital workforce should start focusing on Africa.
I think generally as a continent there seems to be a lot of momentum that has picked up over the past 3 to 5 years. Particularly in Kenya, we all know that they're leading in terms of technology adoption. In Zimbabwe specifically, I think we're slowly, beginning to appreciate what technology can do for us. Initially, I think there was also a bit of overemphasis or focus on mobile applications, which I think is great, but I think from my experience or from what I've seen over the past couple of years is that we need to start looking at technology in the context of other sectors and not just mobile apps. So I know there's been a lot of work that's been done around technology and agriculture. There's a specific project where it's incorporating people from the private sector, the donor community, the universities to kind of come together and try build a support system, I guess an ecosystem, the word that's used quite a lot these days, to support technologies built around agriculture. So I think it definitely shows that there's a good sign and recognition of what technology can do, but we still have some work to do.
It's very difficult to measure because we all have very different starting points. But what I think is definitely not happening is the authorities that are responsible for planning are not making deliberate systemic changes that allow us to run our lives on logistics based on 21st century technologies. There's still quite a lot of catching up of a life that is based on 19th century technologies, whereas we could be deliberately designing systems that facilitate a quality of life based on modern day technologies. And there needs to be deliberate forward planning for that across the whole world, not just Africa.
Definitely. I think in our outreach we've seen, for example, I was super surprised at the amount of knowledge that young people have, even in not super urban areas, kind of your peri-urban areas, on your things like Twitter and all of that. And it's surprising. It shows you that the young generation is really picking up on this. That's one thing. And then in terms of content, I think be it because it's on mobile or because it's just purely internet-based, the whole kind of narrative is completely changing. You look at how, not only in Zimbabwe, but across the board, the way that news or stories are delivered these days, it's much more multimedia is involved. It's also much punchier. It's veering away a lot from your archaic systems of reporting on things. And I think it's giving the power back to citizens to define how the news is told and how stories are told, and the stories that they want to be told are given much more primacy because, you know, they're the ones who have the power to share and to kind of address those issues. So it's a really interesting time, and, you know, not only outside of our borders, but here as well. And I think also like the pace at which internet has been taken up here is something extremely notable. And one doesn't want to let that kind of slip under your nose. You know, you don't want to sleep on it and then realize in 2 years' time that you're kind of behind the curve because, you know, it is picking up at a huge pace. So yeah, it's definitely changing the game everywhere.
Well, the supporting frameworks that were there to usher people into the power of technology weren't always there in the Zimbabwean case. You've got, you know, a basic setup such as electricity supply. It's not as prevalent in our own market or in Zimbabwe and in emerging markets as it is in advanced markets. And then this also seeps into other things such as the use of the platforms and the hardware that is used to extend that technology or the push or the drive for it. We don't have such elaborate systems. We have them, yes, but they never blossomed or flourished before this huge wave of modern day technology came in, or should I say post-2000 technology, specifically the internet. So that has always been something that presents a huge obstacle.
You know, technology, my father actually has always called it, from the time we were very young, he used to call it technology away. From the time the TV came into our home and so forth, and our whole family's eyes were now glued onto this box. And I think the beauty and the wonders, the amazing, I mean, the most amazing things, now you can hold these mobile devices in your hand and you can speak to people across nations, across seas and so forth. I mean, this is all fantastic if you think about it. However, if you look at it, I'm sure anthropologists in 10,000 years will come back and realize that, you know, the iPod, the iPhone, all these things were isolating devices. It's made human beings far more insular. So it's regular that I hang out with my friends and we're all on our mobile devices. And then often start giggling and then forward them things on our mobile devices to them sitting next to us. And I think that's taken away the whole point of conversation.
Welcome back. And with that video, I'm sure you got to see how technology has been embraced in Zimbabwe, but also Africa as a whole. Stand by for my interview with one of Zimbabwe's leading social media and tech voices. His name is Sir Nige.
We'll be right back.
Now, my next guest this evening is arguably Zimbabwe's most influential person on Twitter. Please help me welcome Sir Nige. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
You good,
How are you?
bud?
Yeah.
Do you get that a lot?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Why?
Sir Nige, you know, why Sir Nige, where that all, you know, come from. It was a nickname I started, you know, from university days. Silly story, but we're comparing clothes.
We like silly stories.
We're talking about clothes, and, you know, some guys ask me, hey, you know, so baggy clothes versus non-baggy clothes. And I say, no, no baggy clothes for me. And then someone, oh, so you like British sort of clothes? And I was like, well, you know, ex-British colony, of course. So, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Then, oh, so you're going to be knighted by the Queen one day? And I said, well, you know, you never know, one day.
Mm-hmm.
So then it just started, and then it's just been a little nickname.
Do people know your actual name,
No.
your government name?
No, that's the interesting thing. So I'll call a place and say, look, hi, it's Nigel Mgamu, and then they'll say, oh, okay, we don't have a reservation for you. And then I'll say,
sorry, this is Sir Nige.
And
Oh!
Yeah. Oh, I should have just said so. And it's awkward for me to introduce myself as Sir Nige, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you know, so it depends.
What's the difference between, you know, Sir Nige and Nigel Mugamu?
I think, you know, what you see online is maybe Sir Nige. And then Nigel Mgamu is the guy, the dad, the husband, the guy who takes the trash out. He's the real person.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sir Nige is, I guess, the online person, I guess.
Difficult to separate the two?
Not really. It's one and the same. Online, you just don't share as much about who I really am.
Right.
You know, I think there's some things that you just need to hold and keep to yourself. I've never shared a photo of my daughter online.
Yeah.
You know, my family, my wife, wants her privacy, so I respect that. And it's never really about me. Also, it's always about the issues. I'm a very issue-based person. So let's discuss an issue. I want to personalize it. So if I'm discussing an issue with health, it's never about the Minister of Health, it's about the health issue. And I think when you do it that way, people then start to, engage with you and what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, let's backtrack a bit. You are the founder of 263 Chat.
Yes.
Tell us about that journey and why has it been such a massive hit?
I didn't have a game plan, to be honest. So January 2012, I had this idea, why don't we talk online about Zim? Let's just talk, because I started to get frustrated with a lot of the international media and how they portray Zimbabwe. I'm frustrated, obviously, with some of the media here because it's so polarized and so politicized. And most of us in this room are not politicians. We're ordinary people. We want to ensure that we've got great healthcare system, great education system, and that we prosper as people and as families. And I realized that, look, there's some issues that we need to discuss. And I feel like there's a lot of conversations that we haven't had and that we should have. And so 263 was my way, I guess, of saying, look, this is how I can contribute to the lack of the discourse. And if we get Zimbabweans together, especially the Zimbabweans in the diaspora, because I used to live out there, and I know what it's like. You don't have a lot of information about what's happening on the ground. There's so many misconceptions. And I thought if we just sat down and we spoke, and I think the internet is still the freest space we have. So let's use Twitter. And Twitter, why Twitter? Because you can be anonymous. With me, you Google Nigel Mugami, you Google Sir Nigel, you'll find, I've made it so you'll find it's one and the same person. But other people, if your name is Tonderai so-and-so, you could be X or DJ X on Twitter, and that's cool.
And Twitter is straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
140 characters, as opposed to Facebook where you can write a whole thesis. So that's really what the game plan is.
And it's grown. How's it grown?
I think if you add value, I get this question quite a lot, and I think if you add value to people's lives, so you share information, you get people thinking, you get people talking, and get talking about the things that matter. Let's talk about, look, the healthcare system in this country affects us all in some way. Whether you're on private insurance or not, it affects you. So you'll go to a hospital, someone in your family. In fact, we had a guy who wrote us an article, a guy called Jimmy, wrote us an article. And one of the reasons why he left Zim to go to South Africa is because his mother-in-law died because of the healthcare system in this country. So something fell apart and his mother-in-law passed away, unfortunately, and it broke him, I guess. And he said, look, I'm out. So those are the kind of issues that we want to discuss. How can we unpack it? Well, so let's demystify. Let's clarify. Let's get people understanding what an issue is. Right now, there's a by-election coming up in June. I don't know what a by-election is.
Yeah.
I don't think, I know a lot of people don't know what a by-election is.
Yeah.
But the politicians know what a by-election is. So those
do you take these tweets and do you share screenshots of your discussions with the policymakers? And what do they say? Because I can imagine social media to them still is very, very foreign.
It's interesting. It's an interesting question, that one. So behind the scenes, we engage various people. So whether it's the NGO sector or, in fact, even the policymakers themselves, I find that the younger politicians or the younger policymakers are open to social media. So if you look at the politicians on social media right now, so you've got people like Professor Moyo, Walter Mzembe, Xavier Kaskwere, even the David Coulthards, and various other people like that. They're quite receptive. And now they know 263 Chat. They know what 263 Chat's about. They know what I'm about. So when I approach them and say, listen, Honorable so-and-so, can we talk? Can I make an appointment? Now they're more open. It was never like that in the beginning, but it took some time. Yeah.
How does one make money as a social commentator? People probably think Nigel's always on Twitter. How's he feeding his family?
That's another good question. Look, my social media presence, that's me. I'm passionate about discussion. I'm passionate about conversations. I'm a blogger at heart. I'm a writer at heart. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to talk about. Let's analyze, let's discuss how we make money. So behind the scenes, 263 Chat, the company, does a lot of social media management, does a lot of social media training, and is involved in all kinds of various consultancies. So companies will come to us and say, listen, how can we amplify our voice? Can we use 263 Chat to do that? And every now and again, you'll see us have various we call them Twitter views, so like a Twitter interview with a brand, and we'll talk about their brand. You know, and that obviously we know we've got an audience that'll stop and listen. Oh, what's 263 doing today?
Yeah.
And that's how we, you know, pay our bills.
Yo, we could go on and on with Sir Nige, but go on Twitter. Let's get the conversation going. Follow us and follow Sir Nige, follow 263 Chat, and join in the weekly discussions. They're definitely eye-opening. It's different. And more Zimbabwean people should join Twitter. Get off this Facebook nonsense. But Sir Nige,
thank you so much.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I need to get more followers like you, man. He's going to teach me how to do that after the break. Keep it locked here on TWZ.
Keep it locked on TWZ. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tonight with Zororo.
Definitely after this episode, you have to now follow us on all the various social media platforms. Thank you very much to Sir Nige for being my guest this evening. And up next on the Coca-Cola soundstage, we have Aura with the song titled Traveling Souls. See you next week.
My name is Aura. I'm a performance poet and an all-round music lover. I started writing when I was 13 and I fell in love with words. I only started singing about 4 years ago. I only took it seriously 4 years ago and I love it. Don't do it enough, but I really do love it. Musically, I worked on a single called Traveling Souls, and I'm working on just experimenting a lot with just my sound. I'm trying to find my voice and my roots in music. And with poetry, I'm currently in a very early stages of writing some new material. I took a 2-year break, and after having gone through giving birth to my daughter, I feel a new lease on life, and so I'm working on some new content.
For my traveling souls, for my traveling souls, for my traveling souls, for my traveling souls. It's been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. It's been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. Been a few days, but it's kind of hard to adjust to this place. Those are the words that a lot of newcomers say. Homecomer or foreigner, it's all the same. Living in a land that's not your own takes a while before you can call it home. Even with Skype, email, or just your phone, easy to lose touch where you're from. It's for my traveling souls, for my traveling souls. It's for my traveling souls, for my traveling souls. It's been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. It's been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. Ooh, it's only been a few days, but it's kind of hard to adjust to this place. Those are words that a lot of newcomers say. Homecomer or foreigner, it's all the same. Living in a land that's not your own takes a while before you can call it home. Even with WhatsApp or Skype on your phone, easy to lose If you're there for a couple years, you might get over language barriers, might get married and have a couple of kids. Cultural identities will be a hybrid of what little you remember, of what little you remember. That'll be their home, you will still be a foreigner. That's the reality of the diaspora. Just former traveling soul, former traveling soul, yeah, former traveling soul, former traveling soul. Been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. It's been a minute since I came home, back to where I came from. Dasua kumba nyakanuga ekaya. Oh, you see, yeah, this is for my traveling soul. This is for my traveling soul. This is for my traveling soul.
Join us again next time for the season finale of Tonight with Zororo, where we'll show exclusive behind-the-scenes footage of how we put the show together, and you'll get to meet the crew behind TWZ.
The planning process was really quite eye-opening. There's a lot that goes into putting together a TV show. I felt that it was really great to have so many minds on board, especially when it came to brainstorming. A lot of time went into structuring each episode and making sure that we touch on as many topics that are relevant to Zimbabwe and Africa at large.
In terms of response from the audience, even up to now people are still talking about it on social media.
That if anyone wants to have a talk show or a TV series or anything, what can I say? The standards have been lifted so high.
It actually opened up lots of ideas, lots of doors for many people. Lots of shows are coming up eventually.
You know, it's been so overwhelming to see the show take off in this way and received in the way that it has. I think it's incredible.
TWZ is the future, and I'm in love with it.
We had to wake up very early for preparation. It took a lot of man hours to just get the set going.
I think we did the best that we could. The show looks amazing. It's entertaining. I've watched a few of them like back to back.